Hey guys, it's Billy here and welcome to the BWOM Garage. Today I'm doing a viewer request video. I had a subscriber some time back ask me if I would do a post-ride review of the KLR and talk about its pros and its cons and some of the ups and the downs and what broke and what stayed together on the motorcycle. And I know the Pirates of the Arctic Circle, I'm lagging way behind on that series, but unfortunately I've been really busy. And this video should probably be closer to the end of that series, but fortunately, or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it, I am putting this thing on Craigslist this weekend, so I better do this video review while I still have the bike. And hopefully it'll get out of my sight and take another victim soon and get out of my sight, because I absolutely hate this motorcycle. So anyway, as we already know how this review is going, let's get started. I'm going to open up my garage here to let a little bit more light in so that I can show you this thing a little bit better. I tend to do most of my in front of the camera monologues with the garage door closed because I don't want my neighbors to think I'm too crazy. They already think I am crazy enough. But here it is. This is the 2007 KLR 650 that you've seen her in a few of my videos. She's extremely dirty. I have not washed her since the Alaska trip. What can I say about this bike and be completely honest? Well, the bike's here in my garage after making it all the way to Prudhoe Bay, so I can say honestly that, yeah, it definitely fulfilled its mission, it fulfilled its job, but it was a very tedious task. And for all intents and purposes, it did its job, but it didn't do it well. And it really ruined the ride for me. I spent literally about an hour a day doing maintenance on this bike. And we were doing long 600-mile days. And that's a lot of time to work on the bike. Mostly it was just chain adjustments. There was electrical problems. I had everything on this bike. It's a single cylinder bike, and everything on the bike tended to rattle apart, so I was always adjusting and tweaking things. And I had to adjust the chain once a day, every single day, which you can see here in the VFR. I adjust the chain on this maybe once a ride, and I adjusted the chain on this thing every day. Another problem with the bike is it's extremely slow. It has 37 horsepower. This thing was loaded with about 150 pounds of gear. And I weigh about 180, so you can imagine how incredibly slow it was. What's the weird thing about it, with it fully loaded, it's extremely heavy. It's extremely tedious to do parking lot maneuvers in. Yet on the highway, it would blow around like it was a little 250 Ninja. So you never got the best of either world. You got this big, heavy bike. That big heavy bikes are great on the highway, but this thing was terrible on the highway because something about the profile made it very susceptible to wind. So my definite approach when asked what I thought about this bike on the ride, this was not the bike to use. It was just not. It's too small. It has no power. And it worked great on the Dalton itself, but getting to the Dalton, it was absolutely terrible. So let's go over the battle scars and damages. We'll approach the bike from the left side here. As you can see here, the heat shield of the exhaust is loose. And this thing actually had rattled itself out and bent the Allen bolts. And I actually had to get a tap and die kit and tap out new holes. These are not the original stock bolts. These were just stuff I had rattling around in the garage there, and so I just put it in there to keep this thing in place. And then I'll get to a hardware store and I'll buy ones that actually sit flush so it won't rattle around. The other thing is it completely rusted. It was basically completely rust colored, and it left the house, kind of like this. But I took some heat-resistant paint, the stuff you paint grills and stuff with, and I painted it. It smelled funny for about a day, but it looks a lot better than it did. Tracy's actually rusted to the point that it fell off. The holes were bigger than the nuts, and it actually fell off. As you can see here, you have one bolt on my foot peg lever that is shiny and one that's not, because somewhere in the middle of the trip that thing rattled loose. This is more of a battle scar of the trip. There's a small scratch in the powder coating of the engine guard, and this happened when I ran into Tracy. The situation, I'll explain it more in detail. Tracy was tailgating this guy, and the guy slammed on his brakes. Tracy came over to my lane without looking, and I ended up hitting him with the guard. My engine guard actually hit one of his panner boxes, probably about 35 miles an hour. Crazy enough, neither one of us fell off our bikes, and we thought it was a pretty funny thing. The hand grip guards, they worked pretty well. They kept loosening up and rattling around, and the bolts themselves have rusted to just ass. I'm going to have to paint that to make it look pretty, because that's what I'm going to be doing. As you can see, this is a bolt. It's not stock. It came from a hardware store, because that guy had rattled itself loose. Around the other side, pretty much the same thing. It rattled itself loose, constantly needed tightening, almost a daily occurrence. As you can see here on the radiator shroud, there's a zip tie because that bolt rattled loose. And on the other side is another zip tie because that bolt rattled loose. This, I don't know when it happened. It happened somewhere coming down the Dalton is when I first noticed it. And my theory is a truck kicked up a rock and just chipped it off. These things are like $3. I've got another one in the toolbox. I haven't had taken the time to fix it. I'm just glad that didn't hit my helmet. The funny thing is I never dropped this bike while up there on the Dalton. We never actually had an incident where either one of us dropped our motorcycles. I did have an incident in Saskatchewan, Canada, where the bike was on the side of a road, a gravel road, and you can't really tell now because it's completely unloaded, but when this thing was loaded, another horrible thing about the bike is it stood straight up and down, barely on its kickstand. Either way it went. And I moved ballast from bag to bag. I fiddled with the forks. I did all kinds of stuff, and I never could get this thing to lean onto its side, short of cutting the kickstand shorter. The damn thing just stood straight up and down, and I hated that. And it was to the point that every single time I got on the motorcycle, it was a terrifying experience because it felt like it was going to fall over. Well, part of that is it was standing straight up on this road in Saskatchewan, and we had about a 45-mile-an-hour gust, and the bike got blown over. Unfortunately, it blew over into one of my subscribers' bikes, and we'll get into that story when we get into the series, who was also riding a KLR. But as you can see here on the Pelican case, there's a couple little cuts into it. And that's what happened. It fell over. It almost fell to the ground, but it fell onto the front fender of the other KLR that was there, and it caught the bike and kept it from falling over. The KLR's front fender is a big floppity thing like this, and it didn't do any damage to it either. So it was just kind of one of those funny things. As far as the bags, I got a lot of naysayers when I built these bags. A lot of people were giving me crap, saying they were going to fail and they're going to fall apart and this and that. And they performed flawlessly. They look weathered. That's about the only drawback is that the Pelican exterior didn't really hold up to that much environment. So they look all like ashy and crap, and they won't even clean up at all. But I'm going to take some Plastidip tonight and probably make them look all new and shiny. And if you guys want, I'll show you what it looks like with Plastidip. The little fuel bottles that I built on the back here, they work like a charm and actually saved my ass once or twice. But kind of a weird thing is you look, the paint literally got shaken off of it riding around in there. That's yeah, all that crap. It's weird. One of the big ticket items that I had to purchase on the trip is a brand new chain and a set of sprockets. This cost me around $400 for this because it was a BMW dealership. They charged me whatever they felt like charging me, and it was ridiculous that the sprockets and the chain wouldn't last. And it just totally destroyed all of it.